All right. Good morning. Happy Wednesday.
Hello.
Welcome to Willow Legal Group Coffee Chat. Today we're talking about the difference between the role of a personal representative and a trustee.
Yes, and they are very similar, and a lot of times it's the same person named in the same role. So, and our clients there's some confusion about when you're acting kind of in which role and which hat you're wearing.
Right. Especially, I think it's confusing no matter what.
It is, yes.
Right. Whether you're both one person, both roles, or different people and different roles. But how do you divide and conquer, or how do you know where to put
things?
What?
Right.
So what's a good general rule of thumb?
So the basic difference is the personal representative, which is also referred to as an executor. They deal with the court and anything that the person who passed, the decedent, anything that they had in their own personal name that's part of the probate estate. And even when there's a properly funded trust, oftentimes a small probate estate has to be open for some kind of last minute tiny things. Tax refunds, any refunds on like security deposits, things like that, because those have to be paid to an individual. And the estate handles things for the individual, and that's the court process. The trustee is anything that's in the trust. And so the trust is more of an entity rather than an individual. So that doesn't go through the court process. But they work together because if there's not enough money to pay any debts, the trust can pay the debts. So there's some overlap. And I think that's where things kind of get confusing is what can I pay from which account and for what expenses and that type of a thing.
And how do I track it?
And
right?
Yeah.
And so I think the best thing to do initially is when you're making a list of assets, or if there is a list of assets already, right, is identifying what's owned, right? So who owns it? Does the trust own it? Does the individual own it? So that gives you an initial separation of what's a trust asset, what's a probate asset. And then, any money related to any trust asset stays in a trust account. Any money related to any of those probate assets go into the probate account. And eventually, most trusts, the wills that accompany them are pour-over wills. So they say, put everything into my trust. So eventually everything that is in that probate account will get put into the trust account, and then you'll divide from there. But until you get to that point, which, can take 9 months, 12 months, you have two separate accounts, two separate accountings to keep straight.
Yeah, and you do need to, in both cases, you do need to keep track of any money going in and out of both accounts. In some cases, the court requires you to submit it, and some it doesn't, but you still want to track everything. And I think the biggest thing that that has to be dealt with when you have a trust and a small estate is the debts. So if there are medical bills, any credit card debt, things like that, those are tied to the individual rather than the trust. So those are supposed to be paid out of the probate estate. And so trying to keep all of that separate and organized it can get tricky. So I think, if you find yourself in that role after somebody passes away, consult with an attorney just to kind of say, what do I need to do here? And, in a lot of cases, I've been talking with a woman where she's in both roles for her mom, and she doesn't really need us, but, we're just kind of telling her how to do things like, okay, this is the trust, this is the probate, and then she's going to take care of it herself. But at least she has that guidance, and she doesn't accidentally mess a bunch of things up.
Or having someone to be able to call or email and say, hey,
right,
I'm doing this. Is this right?
Right.
Or do I need to? Because backing out of it and cleaning it up takes a lot more work than, if you do it right the first time.
Right. And taxes are a big one too, if there's any taxes owed, because those are a personal liability, not a trust. Well, there's also trust taxes, but those are different. Income taxes is what I'm referring to. So it can get kind of complicated, and you want to make sure you don't mess up things like taxes, because the IRS is not as forgiving as some.
Yeah. least not as forgiving as beneficiaries.
That's true.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us. Have a great Wednesday and a great week.
Bye.